Duran Premium Cigars, one of the fastest-growing boutique cigar companies, provides smokers a portal into the old Cuban tradition of the perfect balance and the lost art of progressive flavor construction. Roberto Pelayo Duran began his career in tobacco over 2 decades ago in Havana, where his reputation grew within Cuban circles. The creation of Duran Premium Cigars has given Roberto the platform to introduce a series of cigars that offer the quality and construction that he perfected while in Cuba. Brands include the ultra-premium Roberto P. Duran signature line, Azan, Nea, and Baracoa. Duran uses a seed to humidor approach, as all of their tobacco is grown in their farms and rolled in their factory in Esteli, Nicaragua. Rollers have been carefully chosen to carry out Roberto's precise method to ensure progressive flavor in each cigar. Duran Premium Cigars invites you to make their premium your standard.
Welcome back to the Stogie Geeks, episode 250. Here we are. I am your host this week, Joe Hozempa, or dubbed on the show, Joe Hollywood. And to my right, we're in a camera, right? To my right is Joe D.
Back in the mix.
Who's back in the mix here at Stogie Geeks. It's good to have you.
Beyond stoked to be back, man.
If you're just tuning into this segment, last segment we had an awesome interview with Vice President of Crux Cigars. So log on to stogiegeeks.com, check it out. Stay tuned. Also, we got some cool stuff happening here for 2018. So log on to our social media platforms. Hey, there you go. See, I'm getting there. Our social media platforms, and stay tuned with some stuff that is coming up. But right now, this is the Stogie Geek segment, and Joe D and I are going to take some time out and talk about, and it actually was an excellent lead-in from the interview, how he mentioned it, right. not knowing obviously what we're going to talk about, right. And that is the presence of social media.
I think because it's so relevant, and that's every day. The cigar culture, very social media driven. It's all over the place, very accessible now, and get the the product and all the info and the personalities, get it out there.
Yeah, it's certainly a game changer. I can tell you from a business perspective, social media in any industry, any industry could really have this conversation. But obviously, we're talking about social media and the presence it has here in the cigar industry. And what I like fascinating from a consumer perspective is now we can get an inside look at the brands that we like to associate with.
At the ready to go.
You know, so
package up properly and easily toggle through on the websites, and just it's all encompassing. It's an exciting time in the cigar world.
Right. What are some of your thoughts on that?
I'm loving it. I'm loving the the athlete and celebrity interaction, the various cigar vixens and personalities that are out there and driving the hype. It's incredible. It's fun. It's a fun time.
Mm-hmm. I think business-wise, it allows the boutique cigar companies to be on a level playing field
for sure,
with the classic facings.
Right.
I've often toggled through those meetings all the time. And also, I think it gives regions a reason to get their due diligence. And what I mean by that is, 10 years ago, you didn't really talk about Nicaraguan. Maybe it might be 12. I might be off on my timeline, right? But as I often am on a lot of things. But 10 years ago, the Nicaraguan conversation when it came to cigars and the types of brands and blends that come out of that region, right. Now it's a big factor. And I think with social media, it allows us to get out there. Not that they always haven't been there, but now it's more in our face in regards to consumers getting specific knowledge as to the region of the cigar, maybe a potential marketing story. Love the stories and how they develop, but also really give us a insider look as to what people are doing, because there is a certain feel that you get when you're consuming premium tobacco,
right?
As opposed to some of the other products that are out there. But when you're talking premium cigars or potentially pipe tobacco, or luxury tobacco, as I think it's does, because for you to sit down and take time out of your busy day and meet potentially new friends, either in a brick and mortar shop or go back and visit with an old friend or a business acquaintance or family member or whichever, it's often happens that victory is usually celebrated with a cigar.
It is. It's
what I mean?
Yep.
I guess I celebrate daily. But
what better way to do it than celebrate daily for sure?
Exactly.
Maybe a couple times over too.
You always gotta celebrate the little victories. But when we were talking about the topic, some of the things that stuck out in my head was when NBA. I don't really follow basketball too much, but when the NBA won the championship, they lit up a Yaxel cigar, right? And again, recently with the World Series,
Houston Astros.
You can say the name, I can't, right? Right? It was tough to get by. I'm very, on a side note, very, very shocked that even the Yankees got to where they got to and what they did. And could you imagine? Because I really think the way they played Dodgers, they could have probably done it. But anyway, right? I digress. Different podcast, right? Different podcast. But, when the, what was the name of that team?
Houston Astros.
When they celebrated, the recent Facebook media post that's been out is they celebrated with the Leaf by Oscar, the Oscar cigar. And I mean, it blew up all over Facebook. That guy got married. That blew up all over Facebook. But let's talk about the industry, right? It's like one of those things where it's like, wow, like, it brought the premium tobacco discussion through non-people who are non-consumers who are on social media to see, hey, wow, this guy celebrated with a cigar.
Mainstream, the ESPN, everything else. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. Coming from the radio and television world, how when they're showing clips and whatnot, there's a whole gig when it comes to tobacco.
We call it. It's a game changer.
And rules. But again, social media, they can, now we walk around with our phones and companies have the ability to produce a video or a snippet of a video or however they want to technologically portray themselves and get us right there. That's one element that I think, if for all of you cigar vendors out there who listen to the show, I think us consumers would love to see that, like a Facebook Live in the factory, because like Casey said in the previous interview, going to the factory is a experience that if you're the diehard cigar person, you gotta experience that
for sure. Week in and week out, we try to have these various cigar personalities paint us that picture, but it doesn't do it with the full diligence that Justice said it does. Maybe a small glimpse with a video, live videos here and there.
Manuel did a great job when he was on the Stogie Geeks. I mean, he even talked about like the non-tobacco plants that are out, and it's like I was sitting there enjoying the.
I was at all.
I was sitting there, and I'm just like, yeah, this is a good smoke, and I'm just picturing myself in that thing, and I honestly
set the table.
Yeah, and I honestly think that consumers would get into that. Like when Casey, if you're still listening, you're when you're the vice president of Crux Cigars and you're down there, take some pictures. I mean, stuff like that. It fascinates consumers, especially not only in the luxury tobacco field here, like premium cigars, but especially in craft beer, in wine industry, in spirits industry, like. The consumers want more.
That behind-the-scenes peek.
You know what I mean? They always want more. And again, craft beer has been relatively new to the scene. When I say new, 12 years. And they're really putting in a dent into the bigger manufacturers. If you follow the bouncing ball from a business model perspective, craft beer is doing that to the bigger, more mass-produced beer companies, the non-microbrews companies, okay? That's what Nicaragua is doing to the industry. You know what I mean? I know there might be some hate mail, joeh@stogiegeeks.com. You can send it. You know, why you always smoke Nicaragua, right? You know, it's not the only country that produces cigar. I know, I get it, right? But what I'm saying is that they put a dent into that, and it gets more exposure. And I don't understand why a company wouldn't want to take more advantage of that stuff.
I'm a numbers geek, and I'd certainly be fascinated with finding out the return numbers on, the companies that are really pushing the social media envelope and ones that are not. The Tatuajes, the World, Southern Draws, the Cruxes, the La Roars, all these companies are really hitting it hard. Mm-hmm. And and there's plenty of companies that are out there that late to the game. And I wonder if it's too late, or they can bounce back and jump in, because those certain companies that are really hitting it, they've solidified pretty good stakes so far.
That's a good point. To your point, business-wise, is it too late? Absolutely not.
No, too late.
I think that social media in a blanket is here to stay. Mm-hmm.
No timetable to bridge that gap.
I think. Excuse me.
No timetable as far as bridging that gap, and then bringing up the rear from being dormant as far as social media goes to the guys that are living it every day.
No, you just got to start. You got to start, because organically, that's exactly what it is. I wouldn't even begin if I was on another podcast that didn't have a technical side.
Okay.
I would begin to organically tell you how the social media thing works, but then I know that there's a bunch of Stogie Geeks producers that also produce a technical show, and I know I'm gonna get butchered if I even walk down that path, right? Yep. So it's one of those things. But no, I think if they were to jump in the social media mix now, organically, they would be able to have more of a presence, have more of a following, and have more of a capability to build top-of-mind awareness. That's ultimately what it is.
Right.
See, traditional advertising, when you talk from a business perspective, is all about building top-of-mind awareness, right? So social media, again, Casey had expressed that over there. It's about getting, his words, not mine, crux in the minds of the consumers.
Right.
So that, yet again, for when they go out. So
even that daily snippet, as he said, the seed's planted, and I said, you know what, I'm jonesing for stick A or B. It's out there. It's on your mind. You hit up the shops, and it speaks to you.
Or how it works. There's going to be a Stogie Geeks listener who watches this podcast and Googles the Nymphomaniac or the Bull and Bear or any of the lines that we spoke about in this specific example, and then they're going to try it. And again, it's yet another exposure. So the business model does work with social media. It's just a matter of how the business wants to brand itself and then continue with it. And then what I like more is, and then social media is exactly what it is. It's social. So you have to engage your audience. Some brands are standoffish with that. Yep. Some brands, there might not be as much engagement as some of the other brands. Some brands have their own app. That might be a little bit over the top too.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because not everyone is technological. But if you look at the numbers, not to turn this into like a business show, right?
Next level.
But if you look at the numbers, it's staggering how many active people use social media. So why wouldn't you use that presence? Now, they're just saying that
just another resource.
And then I just think it's just going to be another platform. So in other words, right now, someone might flock to a Twitter, a Facebook, or an Instagram. 2-3 years from now, someone's going to invent something super cool because it's super techie, and you can do more. And we live in a generation of, I'm sure you remember rabbit ears.
Oh yeah.
To cable to now Netflix, right? And now you remember 56K or the dial-up modem, right? To only having a couple internet sites on there, and then it blows up. Like
leaps and bounds in such a short period of time.
Even our video games, from a consumer perspective, like we didn't think when we were little it could be anything more better than Atari or Nintendo. And then so we're always being, as consumers, we're always being fascinated by newer technology or newer availabilities that are out there.
Right.
So if we're fascinated by this platform X, why wouldn't a company use
I've
it?
never been that guy. I'm slowly trying to bridge that gap. And
What, with the technological?
yeah, actually, I meant to give props to Casey Hogan on air for nudging me towards the Instagram. Because of his push. I've recently got on that as well, and I get another platform.
Instagram, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna try to sit in as a guest on one of the technical shows and just say, listen, I don't understand like taking a picture, and then the only thing I don't understand about social media is there's gonna be some creativity. What drives me nuts as a consumer. Maybe I look at it too much as a business perspective, but if you post it on one, it goes to all three.
Right.
So then when you check all three, it's the same message, you know?
It cheapens it a little bit. Yeah,
I try to,
add that creativity.
business-wise, I try to keep it. Some of them are the same,
Right.
but you got to have a balance. And again, it's how you want to be portrayed. But let's take a couple seconds to talk about the self-acclaimed cigar rock stars. Right, I don't want to throw out anybody's names because I don't want to give anybody love.
They're out there. They're
right?
out there. Yeah.
But like people, like I get hit up by people. This is all pre-Stogie Geeks, right? Yeah. Let alone being on Stogie Geeks, right? They make their way to, I'm sure they're googling Joe Hollywood and getting nothing, right? For those of you who didn't pay attention to my real last name, but and then they find me, and then like they're like self-proclaimed internet. Help me. I'm trying to be.
I like the Rockstar. That's
So like, you know what I mean? Like
Cigar
like,
World
I don't know,
Rockstars.
and then you get the Facebook picture of the foot of what they're smoking. That drives me bananas.
Yep.
Consumer wise, you know what I mean? At least get a little creative. But I can tell you that we have to do it as co-hosts here on Stogie Geeks. Some co-hosts are better than others. When it comes to that, right?
Yep.
Where we in the next segment we're going to take time out and obviously talk about the sticks of the week.
Right.
Well, I take a picture of the sticks of the week. Like how many times can I, some of them are cool. They're on a golf course because I happen to do that. But some of them are like, okay, like
there he is. I know that chair. I know that setting. This guy haven't moved from the seat.
Right? And the funny thing is, because I'll be honest with you, what goes on in my head is when I take a picture of the cigar, right?
Yep.
I go off and like, all right, do I want to get creative? Some of them I have. Like,
you incorporate the mug, maybe the hair.
I've picked a couple. No, I'm not. See, that's because I'm not a self-proclaimed rock star. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. That's not.
You can be a roadie.
I am certainly not a roadie. You know what I mean?
Ground level.
I don't know. I just like. What are your thoughts about that from a consumer behavior perspective?
I'm still kind of finding my way, but try to be as creative as possible. Avoid the redundancy, and it definitely has a place. I'm enjoying it, even at the ground level that I'm at. I'm still trying to work my way through, but it's another resource.
Yeah.
Why not use it? It's at our disposal.
Yeah, there's no doubt that social media is definitely here to stay. There's no doubt that if a new cigar were to come up, say, in 2018 IPCPR, or a new company or a new a blend were to come out in 2018 IPCPR, we're going to hear about it on Facebook or whatever the next platform is.
Actually, that's a great topic. So a lot of these new cigars that, they hit the ground running in the IPCPR, we know about them first 6-8 months, even a year in advance through social media, get that hype train moving. We see, the movie business. You have to get the ball rolling at some point. The later out that you can do it, build that following and the interest. So when the stick actually shows up and it lands, there's now pouring for it. People want it. They're excited. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's fun. It's fun.
I agree. Yeah. What I like when they go to an event like an IPCPR, or I know Drew just had a
the bond
the bond thing in Louisiana, right? I knew from Facebook, and again, I like the idea of we can now view phone, tablet, whatever electronic extravaganza that we use to see an event that would take place that we would never be at.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
Like, if you don't have the luxury to go to an IPCPR, I love to see the booths. You know what I mean? I think that some booths are really more creative than others. I don't think a tablecloth with some boxes does the trick for me. But, if any cigar companies need some advice, Joe H at StogieGeeks.com. I'll put my I'll put my 2 cents in there for sure.
Maybe even 3. I don't know.
No, because think about it. But I'm sure that's their platform. That's like the launching pad of the industry. It's
Absolutely.
always been.
Yep.
It's a fascinating show, and I love the idea that via social media, us consumers can now get into the brand. For sure. I just think it's phenomenal. I think it's only going to get better.
Yep.
And I think the more creative that the company decides to be. But I'm surprised that, X person wasn't at a plantation and didn't think that like a 1-minute Facebook Live video wouldn't get whatever percentage of their likes is, or however, or views and stuff like that.
That's certainly a question we could pose to any guest that comes on in the industry. Do they shade towards, as far as, reps and brokers and within the business, maybe they shade towards larger personalities just because the hype train and, the trends that we're heading towards right now, bigger the better, and you want that excitement following the brand.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, you need that excitement, especially with you have FDA, and all of that obstacle that the companies have to go through and consider going through, and having a uncertain future. It's a challenge, but again, you can definitely you cannot deny that social media has been a definite game changer for that.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add?
Pretty much, that's a thorough segment right there.
I think so. If you're listening to this show and you know of any social media sites that you think that I should check out, and if you find one of a plantation, email Joe H at StogieGeeks.com. Coming up next, we got the Sticks of the Week. Stay tuned.